We just did a fun segment, Krystal, about the amazing news out of the Amazon labor union elections, both in Bessemer, Alabama, and in New York, with the victory of Christian Smalls. But there's a secondary element to this, which we've covered on the show, and that is Congresswoman AOC. So Christian Smalls, who's the organizer of this Amazon labor union, he called AOC out on your show, Krystal, Kyle and Friends, and you did an entire monologue about that, about how he specifically requested her attendance at a union rally. She confirmed, then canceled. Her staff told him, we're not doing public appearances anymore. And then she goes to the Met Gala. So after the election results started to roll in, AOC decided to triumphantly insert herself into the discussion. And you reminded her a little bit about her past position, which she did not take well. So let's go ahead and put this up there on the screen. Here we go. So AOC does the arms emoji. You respond. Here's the guy who organized the union drive talking about how you left them high and dry. These are your constituents. You couldn't be bothered to show up until they are on the cusp of victory. AOC responds, the warehouse isn't in my district. Maybe you should look at a map before claiming so. One scheduling conflict aside, we have requested oversight investigations into Amazon, met with Amazon workers, and more. Hope you do more due diligence. And you responded, you have people who work at the warehouse in your district. If you want to argue with anyone, take it up with Christian Smalls, who just won and said that you abandoned him. And before we get your response, just so everybody knows, we're not picking on AOC here. Christian Smalls himself, let's put this on the screen, said, shake my head, AOC. It's terrible. Workers from your district definitely commute to Staten Island. I know them personally. Maybe you should do your due diligence. So, Krystal, you clearly got under her skin. Tell us about what happened here. Why did you decide, in order to call her out amidst a lot of this? And what do you think her reaction tells us a little bit about her and the broader movement?
Well, I have been extremely frustrated, which is why I did a whole monologue about this on Monday, that in particular, AOC and Mondaire Jones, who are both squad members and both have constituents that work at this warehouse, have been completely absent from what I think we can all clearly see now is one of the most important labor battles and battles for working people in the entire country. And with AOC in particular, it's even worse because according to Christian Smalls, and he has no reason to lie about this, she was very enthusiastic when she met him. He actually went down to when they were protesting on the Capitol steps and sleeping out there, led by Cori Bush, that she was very excited. They were going back and forth. She agrees to go to this event. And then her staff cancels and says, oh, there's security concerns. She's not doing any public events. And a couple of weeks later, she shows up at the Met Gala. It's even worse though, because it's not just that she ghosted him in that particular moment, but listen, okay, you're busy, you got a lot going on, you're getting a lot of threats, all of that stuff. You could have tweeted your support. Mm-hmm. Here we are down in the final stretch and you can't even lift your phone to type out a message of support or encourage people to get behind them. So when I saw her trying to basically jump in front of the parade here, like she had anything to do with this, now that every single ballot has been cast, I just couldn't let it stand. And by the way, this is about me. This is about the fact that Christian Smalls and his worker-led team have really been sort of ignored and dismissed this entire time. I don't know why. I can't get inside AOC's head or any of the rest of the squad and say why they didn't focus on this fight, why she decided not to show up for him, why she couldn't show her support until it's already a done deal. But I do think part of the overall dismissal of Christian Smalls is a lot of classism. This is a worker-led movement. I don't doubt that there were people behind the scenes saying, oh, he doesn't know what he's doing. Oh, this is going to be embarrassing. This isn't going to ultimately work out. And lo and behold, because he's a worker, because he had that relationship, he looks poised to pull off what no one has been able to do up to this point. So in the spirit of that, I just want to play for people so you know that I am not cherry picking or I'm not misrepresenting what he's been saying. Here's what he told Kyle and I about his interaction with AOC and the squad. Take a listen.
So we had politicians cancel on us the day before our rallies. Mm-hmm. AOC, who else? Mondaire Jones, people I spoke to in person and personally invited them to come to Staten Island to talk to their constituents. They have people that work there in their district. to try to help, gain some support. We had no politician from the left or the squad show up yet. I met Cori Bush as well. There's pictures of all of us there. We stayed on the steps. I brought them food. I brought them ALU shirts. I had workers with me, 4 workers with me. We tried to convince them to come up here. AOC was real excited about it. She was like, yeah, I'm there. Take my information. Talk to all their staffers. I met with their team several times. I had like 3 meetings over Zoom or whatever we was talking on. Leading up to our rally, everything was good. And then the last second, it was like, they can't. They can't make eyes. They said it's a security threat for AOC. And I'm like, I was just sleeping on the steps where in D.C. She had no security where she had maybe one person there or whatever. But it didn't make any sense because they said they canceled all her in-person meetings for the rest of the month. And then a couple of weeks later, she had the Met Gala. So I'm like, okay. I knew.
That's devastating. That's a devastating point. I mean, so you don't have time to go see the Amazon workers, but you have time to wear a tax the rich dress while you're around the richest assholes in the fucking country.
Yeah, you don't have time to actually go speak truth to power with Jeff Bezos, but you have time to like cosplay.
So the other piece here is just what really irritated me in her response is this straw man she set up of, the warehouse isn't even in my district. Like, I didn't say it was in your district. I said your constituents work there, which they do, which Kristen Smalls, again, pointed out and reminded her of. And by the way, of course, she's engaged in all kinds of other fights across the country. I think this struck a nerve with her because she knows she messed up. I mean, there's just no other way around it. When they needed you, when you could have been helpful, when you could have leveraged your massive nationwide network for your own constituents and for a fight that matters to workers across the country, for whatever reason, you couldn't be bothered, but you did find time to go to the Met Gala in your tax the rich dress.
Yeah, so I checked. The Met is not in AOC's district. No security concerns there. I also checked. She did have time to travel to South Texas and subtweet Ted Cruz while dancing salsa on Twitter. Also, why servants around her were masked. Fine. So she has time to fly hundreds of miles down south. She is claiming security concerns for why she couldn't go, even though around the exact same time, she was spotted in Miami with her boyfriend, not wearing a mask, eating at a sidewalk cafe. Okay. So we are about as 1/100th famous, Krystal, and even you and I know what it means in order to sit outside at a sidewalk cafe. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that's bullshit. And
did you have security concerns about picking up your phone and tweeting out support to your millions of followers?
That's the bare minimum of what you can do. Why does this all matter? I mean, actually, that's more of a question for you. I'm not a member of the institutional progressive left. Why do you think that this fight matters? Some people I was looking, they're like, oh, Krystal, you're stirring up trouble at a moment about workers, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I think it's worth addressing the criticism. What do you think?
I do too. That was so it was funny, the pushback. I mean, there was just like a group of people who just hate me. And so like, that's that.
Yeah, I mean, but the haters are always going to hate, but
they're right. Yeah. But yeah, there were people who I think are well-intentioned who are basically saying like, look, they won, this massive historic win. Why are you taking this time to like throw punches? Because I think it really matters to know who was there actually in the fight and who had their priorities straight and who believed in this movement from the start. I think it matters that the people who had the most power in terms of our elected officials were absent and didn't show up until it was a done deal. I mean, that actually really does ultimately matter as we move forward and think about who our allies are and how we can build on this historic achievement. So yeah, I don't think it's a side issue. In fact, I think it really matters. And here's the other thing is like, if she had responded with something basically conciliatory, like, you know what, I messed up. I should have been there. Okay. You know what? Like I think I can't speak for Chris, but I think that would go a long way to saying, great, that's awesome. Like that makes us feel like next time you actually maybe will be there for us. But instead she went in the direction of like, oh, you need to do your due diligence and the warehouse isn't even in my district. So what does this even have to do with me? Come on. It's very clear that it struck a nerve because she knows in her heart of hearts that she should have been there. And whatever her reasons were, like, you have no excuse to not show support in the final weeks leading up to this vote, using your millions of followers, your massive social media presence to try to generate support. The other pushback that I saw is like, and you kind of mentioned this in our last segment, like, maybe they were better off without the national figures and without the celebrities. So. That's certainly possible. That definitely might be possible. But I will say that, you know, the organizers on the ground very much wanted her there. They very much felt that she would have been help and useful. And they definitely felt like, you know, she had fans and constituents that were at the warehouse who really would have gotten a lot out of seeing her there in support. And the other thing I'll say is, because the Amazon labor union is a new union and is, you know, worker led, and they're doing this for the first time, having some well-known established players basically say, hey, we're behind this and we believe in this effort, that also could have gone a long way to helping them alleviate concerns that you all, you know, maybe don't really have your act together and you don't really know what you're doing. Because that's part of what Amazon was trying to sell, obviously not very successfully, but trying to sell to the workers in the warehouse was, this is a new effort. These people are, you know, out of their league and they don't know what they're doing. So if you had established players, bolstering them, giving them credibility, that would have helped to dispel some of those concerns from Amazon.
Yeah, I think, look, remains to be seen whether she'll show up to the next one or not. But I do think it is revealing. I think she should have just said, I'll be there next time. I stand with you guys in spirit, something like that. But she's too thin-skinned. I think she's a narcissist, honestly. She just can't take any criticism whatsoever. Even from somebody like you weren't being mean about it. You were basically asking for an apology, but she does not have it in her. It's a classic trait, unfortunately, of a lot of these politicians. And we'll find out who she really is in the month or so. I guess we already know. But
yeah, I mean, listen, there's no doubt about it. Like, I have a very strong emotional reaction to it because we've been talking to Christian for so long, and like because
2 years,
because I've seen the way this man has been treated, fired by Amazon, smeared by their top executives, and then he uses that, lights a fire under him. He says, "I'm gonna go and take a stand for my fellow workers. We're gonna do something historic," and then he's just completely dismissed and ignored. So, you know, especially by the people who most should have been there to have his back. And so, yeah, when I saw her, like, you know, show up to jump in front of the parade, I did have an emotional reaction to it. And more than anything, I just wanted to set the record straight about what the people who actually were there on the ground in the fight were saying about her role. So when people look at that tweet, they would know that, okay, great that you're on board now, that all the ballots have been cast. But where have you been? That's it. And again, if she had responded to that with basically saying, like, you know, you're right, I could have done more, I should have done more, next time I will, fine. That's absolutely fine. But I think her response shows that, you know, she's certainly not going to change direction anytime soon.
I think that's right. All right. Well, it was a fun segment, Krystal, and it was amusing at least for you to watch. So I think people will.
Very exciting.
I was
all going on while I was like at my kids' soccer practice. Like, oh my God.
I got home from the gym and I was like, man, things are popping off here. I'm like, let's go. And I had to wait in too. I enjoy it.
And you know, I never get in Twitter. Like, I literally never get in Twitter
Both
fights,
of us have policies. So we don't do it, period. But I think this was one worth waging. And I think it's been clarifying for some people out there. So
I think that's a good way of putting it. And one other thing I want to say is, guys, the Amazon Labor Union, they have another critical vote coming up this month at another Amazon facility. Last segment, we put the link in the description. We're going to put it down here as well. This is such a worthy fight. Christian is an incredible, historic, inspiring leader along with his colleagues and fellow workers there. So if you can support them, this is one where it is really, really worthy of your time and your hard-earned dollars.
Yeah, that's right. All right. We'll see you guys later.
See you guys later.
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.